Welcome to today's Explainer. Right now, we're looking into a deeply heartbreaking event that's frankly left a community completely shattered and investigators scrambling for answers. We're going to examine the tragic crash of a private K2 Airways cargo plane into the Arabian Sea near Karachi. Obviously, this is a really heavy, solemn subject. But, by carefully mapping out the timeline and the facts exactly as we have them, we can start to piece together what actually unfolded in the dark skies that night.
Okay, let's dive into this. 3. Just 3 minutes. That's it. That is the infinitesimally small window of time it took for a totally routine return flight to become a catastrophic, irreversible tragedy. I mean, literally just 3 minutes stood between the very first sign of technical trouble and the aircraft vanishing from the world's view entirely.
Section 1. The fatal flight. So, to really wrap our heads around how those 3 minutes played out, we gotta look at the context. The aircraft was a private airline's Boeing 737 cargo plane. And since it was a cargo plane, it wasn't carrying regular passengers. It was actually operating as a free flight, basically deadheading back home to Karachi. But here's a really crucial detail. The plane had literally just spent 5 full days undergoing maintenance in Sharjah. Everything seemed completely normal. In fact, we know from some really heartbreaking voice notes sent to their families, including one to a crew member's mother, that they were departing Sharjah and expected to touch down safely around 9:30 p.m. They were just guys heading home from work.
Section 2, 3 minutes of terror. Well, they never made that 9:30 p.m. arrival. Let's walk through this exact timeline because it moves incredibly fast. The flight departs Sharjah, no reported issues at all. Then, out of nowhere, at exactly 9:18 p.m., while flying near Karachi, the plane's navigation system suffers a total catastrophic failure. And just 3 minutes later, at 9:21 p.m., the aircraft just completely disappears from radar. The whole sequence was so rapid, so incredibly sudden, that the pilots didn't even have time to get a distress call out to air traffic control. Just total silence. And this brilliantly illustrates the terrifying scale of the failure. During that tiny 3-minute window, this aircraft was dropping at an uncontrolled, horrifying rate of 15,000 feet per minute, plunging straight down into the Arabian Sea. The sheer speed and force of a descent like that, it meant recovery was, practically speaking, impossible. But behind all the radar data and the descent rates, we have to stop and look at the real cost here. Five precious human lives were lost to those dark waters. This wasn't just a machine failing. These were 5 homes where the lights were extinguished forever, just in the blink of an eye. 5 families waiting for men who are never going to walk through that front door again. Section 3. The grieving families. To really grasp the human toll of this, we need to focus on the people left behind. We're going to look specifically at the family of one of the victims, RF Siddiqui, just to understand the rippling devastation of a crash like this. RF was an employee for an engineering firm that provided essential maintenance services. Now, the plane didn't belong to his direct employer, but his company contracted out services to various local airlines. He was just a dedicated guy doing his job, and his sudden death leaves behind a profoundly grieving family, including a whole bunch of kids and a heartbroken father, all of whom are desperately demanding answers. And these families are now facing this agonizing uncertainty about aviation standards. RF's father, Rafi Siddiqui, said it best. It was an old cargo plane. Passenger plane safety is different. We don't know what its safety or technical issues were. And he hits on a really terrifying distinction there. The safety protocols, the emergency fail-safes for aging cargo planes, they can actually be totally different from what you'd see on a modern commercial passenger flight. For a grieving father, having to wonder if his son's life could have been saved by better emergency systems, man, that is a heavy, heavy burden to carry. Section 4. The information vacuum. As if this sudden loss wasn't painful enough, the immediate aftermath has made everything so much worse for these families thanks to an insanely frustrating lack of communication. I mean, picture this. On one hand, you have the absolute chaos of social media rumors. In those early hours, families were hearing wild hearsay, stuff like the plane crashed near the Iran border or over in Ormara, which is like 300 kilometers away from Karachi. And on the flip side, official channels offered almost total silence. The only direct contact some families got were these late-night visits. We're talking 2 or 3 a.m. from company HR reps saying maybe the CEOs would visit later. Zero formal, clear updates from the government or aviation authorities. So the crucial point is perfectly captured by RF Siddiqui's brother-in-law. He literally said, "All the information we are getting is through hearsay, no information from the institution or government." Just think about how devastating that is. These families are sitting in their living rooms, desperately trying to decode unverified, chaotic social media posts themselves just to figure out what happened to the people they love.
Section 5. Search and Rescue Operations. Now, while the families are stuck in this agonizing information vacuum on land, there's actually a massive physical effort happening right now out on the water. The search area is vast, it's dark, it's unforgiving, but they've deployed some serious military assets. The Pakistan Navy has sent out specialized warships, specifically the PNS Zulfikar and the PNS Hunain. And up in the sky, Air Force aircraft are totally engaged in this operation. They are out there piercing the pitch-black sea with powerful searchlights, navigating these crashing waves and just meticulously scanning for absolutely any sign of the wreckage.
But here is the grim reality. Despite this massive, highly coordinated military op, the search continues, and the families are still waiting. As of the latest reports, no bodies have been recovered. Not a single definitive piece of evidence has been brought back to give these families any sort of peace. They're just trapped in this heartbreaking state of suspended grief, completely unable to find closure. Which brings us to a final, really provocative question drawn straight from the sources, and honestly, it's a question that's going to linger way after the searchlights are turned off. Was there any criminal negligence during the maintenance by the company in Sharjah? I mean, remember, this plane had literally just spent 5 days being serviced. How on earth does a navigation system fail so catastrophically that it plunges an aircraft 15,000 feet per minute into the ocean right after being cleared to fly? Investigations are going to continue for sure, and maybe the technical answers will come out eventually. But the families of those 5 men, they are forever changed by those terrifying 3 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep analyzing the facts and never stop asking the hard questions.